Hello, changelings, and welcome to the Night Garden. I am VampireAntihero.
And I am Legendary Sapling.
And Ledge is my husband. We are doing something new today. So we were talking, and Ledge came up with a good idea of something to do on the YouTube channel here, which we have been referring to lovingly as Newb versus Pro. So the premise of this is that Ledge, who has maybe doodled, 5 times in your life?
Something like that.
Does a drawing of some sort, and then I also do a drawing of some sort, and we both show our process throughout. So this first one, we decided that we should probably come up with some sort of logo for this, since it's a little bit different from everything else that's on the channel. And so we decided to do half and half. Ledge did his half independently from me, and we designed a logo together for this new series that we'll be doing. Our hope is to get one up once per month at least. It may be more, it may be less. It really depends on what I'm doing in my professional projects and how much time we have outside of everything else that we do. So,
indeed.
Without further ado, I'm going to be watching Ledge's
speed draw of my side of the logo. So, yeah.
Thank you. It is currently 7:30, and I just finished my workday, so word's no good.
Word be hard sometime.
Exactly. So let's get started. Ledge's is about 15 minutes long. How fast did you speed this up?
I sped it up to 600%. So
okay.
That's 6 times the speed, I believe. Yeah, go right ahead. So my first thought in regards to this is that we have the night garden, right? And so I figured that if you were going along with that motif, I would kind of look at things like daylight, garden, so flowers and growth, as well as like an idea of a noob. And so I was trying to think like, what ways can I incorporate the word noob into it? Then I was just really confused as to what I was even going to try to do. So I kind of started doodling little flowers, and I decided, maybe a tree. Trees kind of show growth. They can be strong. They can be sturdy, but they can also just kind of represent a lot of those things in regards to kind of newness and, like I was saying, growth. And so you saw that timer in the corner. I speedrun for Hollow Knight, kind of as a fun thingy. And so I have a timer, but as you see, it is now at 0 and just stuck there. I didn't realize that it was like that for the longest time, and you'll see it leave later. But anyways, so I kind of start with this like tree-looking trunk thing, like I'm a 12-year-old, and then
Hey, no self-deprecation on my channel.
This is the whole point of this thing, is that I do not have any kind of artistic training. I never took an art class. I didn't do anything in terms of art throughout my entire life. And I am 35 years old come March 2024. So one of the things that I actually did is I Googled for a big tree reference. So this is the first time that I really use a reference when drawing. And so I got in a bunch of these tree leaf shapes just to kind of get this idea of this big honkin' tree. I'm thinking like Yggdrasil, the tree of life, the tree of mana kind of thing with this whole concept. And so I'm just kind of getting in these branches right here. And now I'm cleaning up some of the stuff, and I'm already like looking at my colors thinking like, all right, how am I going to color? And I barely have this sketch in. And just kind of going through.
I'm going to cut in and say that he asked me to give him a color palette before he started this because he didn't want the colors to clash since it was going to be a logo.
Yep, exactly. I'm not good at colors. I have a real hard time even dressing myself and making sure that the colors that I'm wearing in my everyday life don't just look absolutely atrocious. Some of my favorite colors are oranges and yellows, and although I don't have a lot of clothes in those colors, it's hard to make those not look awful. But anyways, I'm doing in some finalized lines here for the trunk and just kind of given these really god-awful looking branches in the canopy here. A lot of those do end up going away.
It was a good attempt.
I was trying to go based on the reference picture, honestly, because in the reference picture you could see a lot of the sky through the tree branches and through the trees and the leaves, and I was trying to replicate that in these areas. But I was looking at the trunk and I didn't really like it, so I expanded it out a little bit more and kind of made it just have that much more bell-bottom curve in regards to that. And so I'm messing around with my layers, and I'm already looking at colors, trying to figure out what kind of pen or brush I wanted. So I start out with this awful round brush, and I do about half of the tree and go, God, I hate this freaking brush. I never want to look at it again. And I switch over to this India ink one that I actually found that I really enjoyed, and I use this the rest of my coloring. And the shape of this is so perfect to what I need for leaves. It's just this little, like, teardroppy, turd-like shape. And it's perfect for just putting in these shapes and these little dots here that make it look like leaves. And I'm just like, oh, this is looking so great. Yes, I've found the brush that I need. And so I have to delete and erase some of the rounded, awful brushing, and then I just fill it back in with this brush and do some shapes and turn and twist so that I can make these leaves go in different directions that I like. And
it's honestly really interesting hearing you talk about this because, like, I only ever use like 2 or 3 different brushes.
Yep. And so I got in my base greens, hurrah! And now I'm just kind of futzing around with some lighter green colors, thinking about nothing in particular at all. I'm like, oh yeah, I want some color differentiation and some shapes and stuff, because leaves are different colors across trees. Leaves are different colors because of shadows and all that crap, and highlights and all that garbage. And I'm like, I'm not thinking about any of that right at this point. I think about it later, and I look at half of these things and go, this doesn't make sense. But for now, I think it looks pretty, so leave it alone. But yeah, the rest of this is really just filling in colors and figuring out some stuff. So here's where I kind of try to think, okay, highlights maybe in these spots around the edges, and I'm also playing around with the colors of the greens a little bit, and I found this darker one that I was like, ooh, yeah, this is a nice dark. And so I start filling in these parts where I kind of think maybe shadows would be, because they're underneath some of the highlights, they're underneath some of the parts where like bigger branches are extending and bigger clumps of leaves would be, and just kind of generally experimenting where there should be patches of shadows because there's missing leaves and missing holes in a tree. But this is like the best dang tree I've ever made in my entire life. Normally they look like puffballs on sticks for my trees.
Cat.
And so here I am again trying to figure out where shadows kind of should belong. I'm thinking like at the end of this weird branch here maybe. And this is where my system decided I don't want to record anymore and just stopped recording the screen. My setup is really jank in terms of I'm drawing all this on an iPad that is then connected to my computer. It will come back eventually, I promise. And so in the meantime, I did a couple more scribbles of my shadows, and I also colored in the trunk as this purple color to kind of contrast the colors that we'll be seeing in VampireAntihero's side of it.
Vamps.
I forgot your name for a second. I'm sorry. I haven't referred to you as you that. Yep. In a while. So I'm cleaning up some of the greens because the purples are underneath the greens so that it doesn't have a risk of overlapping and anything. And just kind of filling those things in. Clean lines. Don't want any greens inside our perps. Don't want our perps outside into the greens. And so decided to clean up some of these things. I was like, what freaking layer is that on? Had to go through 3 different ones to find it. And just,
don't worry, I have that issue all the time too.
What layer is it? So yeah, I'm just kind of, and at this point you had come home because I was trying to work on this in secret while you were out of the house. Mm-hmm. And because I wanted it to be a surprise for when we did this kind of a reveal so that we would be reacting to each other's items live, essentially, for reaction purposes.
And then I realized that he was working on something for this, so I just kind of stopped paying attention to what he was doing and scrolled on my phone until he was done.
Yeah. So I stay really zoomed out for quite a while here because I was trying to be discreet and hiding what I was making. But if you see this big-ass green blob thing, I think you might figure what I might be drawing. This is my attempt at shading the purple, and I absolutely hate it because I'm like, I don't understand what these roots are doing, where the light is. It's under the canopy of a tree. There shouldn't be a whole lot of bright lights here, so there's darker shades, so I was just kind of like, nah, I'm not going to shade that. And here I'm trying to find out where am I going to put the word noob, because this is our logo for noob versus pro. And I was like, wait, it's a tree. What do people do to trees but carve things into trees like their names? And then I made it too big. So I had to go back and draw it smaller and try to make it kind of look like somebody carved it into the wood. And I decided I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. And I liked that. Cat. So this is where I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. And I go, no, I need more shadowing on these bottom portions because, why not just be done with it? We got to mess with it and play with it and maybe overdo it. I'm not sure how I like it in the end, but I looked on my left side and there was a lot of shadows at the bottom there. And I was like, okay. Maybe I need to do that on the other side to kind of match the shadows and balance that.
It's a good instinct.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'll make it like a surface and I'll color like a ground. And I was like, nah, screw that. That is too much work for me. I will do a tree and that is my thing. No fancy backgrounds for me, thanks. And I noticed because I had used that awful brush earlier that there were like patches of green throughout the leafing and the canopy. I fixed that up later, but now I'm going through and doing all of the darker stuff along the base trunk portion of this tree because I was thinking like, that's the stuff that's going to be like at the very bottom of and the deepest parts of the tree, right? So that should theoretically be some of the darker shading that you have. And at this point, I wasn't referring back to my reference too much because you were in the room. And I didn't want to give away what I was working on too much.
You could have told me to go away.
I could have, but also, I was doing this in the living room. Because that's where my setup is, on the living room and on the big screen TV in there. So just kind of going through, doing some shading throughout the branches and all that fun stuff and cleaning up a few little lines and little pieces of thing that I saw. I started coloring on the wrong layer there, and then I realized right away, so props to me for catching that before I absolutely decimated my line art layer. But yeah, this is a whole lot of just filling in a new color here, because like I was saying, I saw a lot of darkness on the one side and figured, to mix and match and balance that out a little bit more, let's do that over on this side.
It's almost like I got home and you got insecure.
No, I was trying to be secretive and sneaky. And I didn't want to give away too much of what I was doing or have you like kind of privy to my sneaking ons while I was doing this. But cleaning up and making a few of those little leaf splooches. And this is why I really liked that, really like this brush for this purpose. It's The other one was leaving a lot of
It's very shapy.
yeah, it's a very specific shape. The other one that I was using also was just leaving a lot of it wasn't just a solid color, it was depending a lot on the pressure,
Yep.
and it was leaving a lot of just uncolored sections and like partial transparency.
There are
throughout
ways
it.
to turn that off, and
I couldn't figure it out.
maybe that's something that I'll help you with another time, or like we can do a video where we live draw or something together.
Yeah. And as I was saying earlier, I have not been trained on this drawing program. This is the first time I think I'm using this art program.
This
or the
is-
second time or third.
This is Clip Studio Paint, by the way, but the iPad version specifically.
But I've only used this program twice before, and that is coming up on a different video. But yeah, so I had no idea kind of where things really were, what things did. I've used Photoshop before, and I know kind of the idea of what some aspects are in Photoshop.
You've also
But-
used Procreate.
I don't even remember Procreate.
Procreate, do you remember when I switched this to the simple version? And it was like just like the canvas and like a thing on the side. And you were like, I don't like this layout as much.
Yeah, but
Okay, so that basically is what Procreate looks like.
Yeah.
It's very
cool.
simple.
But anyways, so for this to be like my second or third time drawing this, I was like pretty dang impressed. I put in a couple more highlight colors up top on the branches and some of the other spots, and continue to really darken out some of these spots. I get rid of some of the coloration and shapes that I really liked because I had to do that. And I was trying to, again, find where the highlights would be, and thinking like, oh, this is a section that's kind of above the dark parts and stuff. And wow.
I think it looks good for, you know, an attempt of something like you really tried with this, and you used reference, and that's something that you're not used to doing. I think you got a really good result. You've got, you know, the attempt of trying to make those clumps of leaves and stuff like that. And yeah, it does have, you know, those elements of, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing, but like you got a good result for what it is.
Yeah, I was actually very, very surprised and pleasantly pleased with the way that this came out. And like I didn't try to go back and do any kind of shading on the tree trunk or anything. That I was just so worried about it just looking splotchy and clumpy and gross that I just left it that basic darkish purple color. And I kind of like it that way.
Yeah, I could give you pointers on how to, you know, shade something dark like that, but I kind of have I can talk about that when we watch mine.
Yeah.
Because I actually did a night scene, which is a little bit more difficult of a lighting scenario than a daytime scene. And I will say that mine is pretty long compared to Ledge's. I took roughly 5.5 hours on mine. Do you remember how long yours was?
It was like an hour and a half, maybe.
Okay.
About that, maybe closer to 2 hours.
So I took significantly longer on mine, but also I did a house. So
Of course you did. I mean, I did a freaking tree, so there you go.
right here I'm doing a sketch. I had an idea in mind already that I wanted to do like a Victorian style haunted house. So I started with some sketches, and typically I don't work like this. I don't just do a sketch on the thing I'm trying to design. I put together multiple like small sketches and then pick the best out of the small sketch. So you can tell that I was unsure of this workflow, and then here I am actually doing that. But because I had already tried 2 or 3 of them, this one that I'm sketching now is what I wind up going with because I wound up liking this. So I put in a quick 3-point perspective grid, which is basically just giving me how my lines are going to curve upwards as the house goes taller. and I'm starting to sketch in my details. And I did use reference for this. I pulled up a couple of things off of Pinterest and things like that just to have something to look at, and just kind of had it on my other screen.
Oh, it's not just the Addams Family house?
It's not the Addams Family house.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess you've already drawn that before.
I have. It's on my my
Back
wall. Yeah. So
shapes.
Yeah, very shapy. I start everything with really strong shapes. And that's something that you'll see from a lot of artists, is that if you can boil everything down to their most base shapes, then you can draw something. You can draw pretty much anything.
You were going to go for a gate.
I was going to go for a gate, and then I decided against it because I was like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how it's going to
flow and look.
Yeah, so I got rid of the gate. But this is my base sketch for the most part. I'm pretty sure that I just take this and enlarge it, and we'll see that in a couple of minutes. But to give you a little bit of a background, I draw buildings all the time. This is something I'm fairly used to. I actually am way more comfortable with doing buildings and like inanimate objects than I am to do characters and stuff like that. So this is kind of my jam. But here I am. I did just take that sketch and enlarge it, and then I sized it to the size of my circle half. And now I'm just copying my shapes on a different layer. So basically what my idea is here is I am making my complex shape, my big shape of my house, and then I'll make the big shape of each section of like the bushes, and then each section of the hill, and then that will give me a base to work on. So that I can use something called clipping masks so that I don't have to be nearly as careful when I'm coloring. So...
You and your fancy art stuff.
Yeah, well...
It's like you went to college or something.
I didn't do this in college, though.
That's funny.
Yeah, all my digital art is either self-taught or done through mentorships and stuff like that, so...
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a funny thing. I went to college for 5.5 years. I switched majors like 5 or 6 times, but ultimately when I graduated with a printmaking emphasis. So my background,
such a good purple with that like black.
Well, that's actually not pure black. If I went and color picked it, it's an off purple. Mm-hmm. So
I can see it now that we're zoomed in closer, but
yeah, that's a pretty good tip for anybody who is working with dark colors. If you want to go about at max 80% black, so that your black kind of matches what you're doing a little bit more. It blends in with everything else. So
I like watching you do this now, and I realize like you're coloring stuff. Like you did like the lines around it, and then you just filled it all in. You didn't have to bother putting in all the other stuff like me. I'm like, I gotta just blob it all in there. And it's like, oh, honey, save yourself the time in this struggle.
Well, and the funny thing is, as you say that, is that I'm actually really slow in terms of a professional artist. Like, so I know people who can whip something like this out in like 2 hours.
But like your intelligence here of copying that one upper window and then just pasting it and then just making it skinny and long to get to like portray those different angles of the window so that you can tell that that's a rounded section and that it's facing outwards a different way. It's like I would have sat there and tried to draw it and erase stuff and be like, oh, I gotta angle it just right. And you're just like, don't be dumb. Get good and use copy paste, you fool. Like here you're doing it for the doorway as well.
Yeah.
Like, see, this is working smart. And then you're just kind of giving it that slightly different shape to differentiate it and make it like, I didn't copy and paste all of these things from one image.
Right.
Look at this little fat guy.
Well, originally I was trying to do a different shaped window, and then I immediately was like, nope, I don't like this. So
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah, and you got to take in like the perspective of like the angles like going more upwards because it's circular and
yep.
all that crap. I do got to say I love the color, like this Luigi's Mansion green, like ghosty green kind of color here.
So the only reason why I picked this color is because mint green and this dark kind of plumish purple are my brand colors for my studio.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do something that kind of tied in with the channel a little bit, and I wanted to do something that, like, you know, called back to these colors because, one, they're important to me for my brand, but two, they're some of my favorite colors. So
this is interesting here, this circle window.
Yeah.
I don't know, that fully square window looks so odd to me all of a sudden.
It's because of how it's angled, and I do fix it later.
Okay, I was gonna say, because like this is so odd. Lavender Moon! It's cheese!
You're not the first person to say that to me, actually.
Lavender Menace over here.
Yep.
Oh, look at it, it's a Chloe! Ah! Is it winter?
I mean, that was the thought.
See, now this thing that you do here, where you're like adjusting everything on that layer to be like a different color. I try to do that on a different video and fail.
Okay, so what I was doing there is I was cycling through my blending masks, my blending modes.
Oh no, masks. We have to exfoliate.
Why are you like this?
Oh, this is cool. Oh, the moon make the shine do.
Well, and if you look, it's just simple shapes that I'm doing there. It's triangles and stuff like that. So
the moon does cool things to shapes. No, that's just like those small little pieces change so much about it. And just add so much to it. And that was what I was trying to do with the little green splotches, but I think I overdid it in spots and didn't take into the fact that subtlety is required.
Less is more in a lot of in a lot of times. You need places for your eye to rest, which is what made yours work pretty well. Like you did have a lot of jaggedy lines everywhere, but you had a lot of spots where you only had one color. So you had like all this busyness, but then you had places where your eye could rest, and that's why it looks so nice.
Sure.
This is where I'm saying, like, kind of what you were doing with your trunk. A lot of what goes into shading a dark color is letting your lights wash out and letting all of your detail be in the shadow. So, like, if you notice, I only use one color for my highlights, but I use 3 colors for my shadows.
See, I was doing, like, not that. But, no, that's really cool in regards to, oh, look at the little guys.
They're just little guys.
They're just little guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I just copied and pasted, because, like, the thing is, with that, it's the same idea as using a stencil when you're doing traditional art or using tracing paper to, you know, get the same shape.
Yeah, to make it really consistent. And looking manufactured rather than, like, my cobbled together thing.
Yeah, and not running the risk of making something completely... I turned off my multiply layer of my sketch here, by the way. That's why it looks so different. But, Getting those shapes to be uniform enough to look like, you know, they're meant to be the same, but, you know, changing them just enough to where they still have that handmade quality.
Sure. Yeah, that kind of thing. Where it's like, yes, they might have like minor differences if you really get up close, but from afar, they should look basically copy pasted.
Yeah.
In real life too, they would look that way.
Exactly. And you see what I'm doing with my shadow there, it's just one big shape.
Yeah. I feel like this house, I've seen this house in town and like it's down on like we could walk a couple of like blocks away and we'd walk past this house.
It looks similar to that house, right?
Yeah, it really does look similar to some of the older kind of houses. That
The
might be
Victorian,
around here.
Queen
Yeah,
Anne's. Yeah.
but in probably much better shape.
This is like...
lights.
Yeah, I had to remind myself where my light was hitting, so I just kind of...
Yeah, I didn't think about that until the end, and then I went, well, crap. I decided I don't care. Because I was too far gone. I had already been like, I'm frustrated because I can't figure out the shading on this stupid trunk. Can't get the shading on this tree. Damn, I'll kill everyone in the world.
Homicidal maniac over here.
But,
I don't know if you noticed, but a little bit ago, I had a different color here, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, and I just went up to... There's an option that you can do in Clip Studio Paint. I did all of these colors on different layers so that I could do this just in case I made a mistake. But there's an option that you have on Clip Studio Paint where you can convert a layer to your drawing color. So I just changed the layer color that way. And I did it again there. I turned it from that white to that more light purple.
Okay.
But then also that grid that I had put on there, that was just to make sure that my my curves were right. A smaller version of that perspective grid almost.
I didn't use a grid on this one, but I do use a grid on the next one that we're doing. So we'll get to see that and you'll go, yeah.
I haven't seen the next one yet because I haven't started mine. So
you were in the room for that one too. So.
Yeah, but also I was purposefully not paying attention because I knew what you were doing.
Yeah. But gosh, like I can see why this took
5.5
hours because you're definitely going like very much all out in regards to this, and now you're lining stuff up so the windows make sense.
Yep.
In terms of the construction. That's helpful. That's needed.
And if I actually like leaned things more, it would have been just as effective because it would have been a stylized house at that point.
Right.
But I like things to have a little bit more of a
uniform.
Yeah, I like repeating patterns and I like things to be neat and even. And I do like stylized things, but I don't like leaning into that like super abstract, twisted realm of things. I like my stylizations to be really clean and neat.
Right? No, and I mean, it looks really awesome just in general here. And like, I think I chose kind of something that I did because I didn't have to be even. There's not symmetry in a tree.
Yeah.
There's like some balance involved because if a tree grows too far to one side, it'll tip over and it'll like drown out the light from reaching other places and all that stuff because it's a living thing. A house is not a living thing. It doesn't need to worry about how it's leaning.
Exactly.
I mean, it does because otherwise it'll topple and all of that stuff, but like, it's built to be these shapes. It's built to be this kind of alignment and angle. And
exactly.
Stuff, so.
And the thing is too that with organic shapes, which is what trees are, you have a lot more fun kind of figuring out the curves and the shapes that you can make out of like the negative spaces and things like that. With a house like this, yeah, you have some of that, but a lot of it is going to be very blocky. A lot of it is going to be very, repetitive and, strict lines, strict drop-offs, those types of things. So
yeah. At least with this style of house, like there's definitely like natural houses, cob houses.
But most architecture and construction doesn't have that kind of organic.
Right.
And this does have some like, curvy shapes and stuff like that, but that was just to keep my interest.
Yeah, to break things up, to give it more interest. And what's with this like half circle on these middle windows here? I didn't notice that happen, and now it's like not even.
So I fix it later,
Okay.
but I wanted to have an outcropping from the roof there. And
setting stuff up for later.
Yeah. So a lot of it was just me trying to break up the shapes so that they weren't super repetitive and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is a big challenge with architecture. But ultimately, like with architecture, if you can find a way to break up your shapes so that they look repetitive enough to be convincing, but they're different enough to keep somebody's attention, then that's going to give you a good composition.
Yeah. You're not even like done with your like lines and stuff. Like
this is technically a lineless piece.
Yeah. I like that both of ours were actually kind of, well, mine had lines in the trunk, but
you used your line as a shading though.
Yeah.
Instead of like actually doing a shade.
Yeah.
So like that is a technique, but
no, I do kind of like that we were consistent in that regards.
I find it funny that you decided to do a tree and I decided to do architecture because those are two opposite themes.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of different ideas. Like one of them was going to be like just flowers in a garden and like maybe a sign that said like peppers or something like that and was like a raised bed of some kind. Or I was thinking of having...
There I was flipping my canvas.
It went by so fast I didn't even see it. So, but yeah, like thinking up ideas that were going to counter something because we had decided beforehand that your colors were going to be kind of these darker, more purple and green like your brand colors, and we wanted the opposite possibly on my side to kind of denote a kind of a yin yang sort of thing where it's like there's still noobish qualities within a professional. There's sometimes professional qualities within a noob in some respects.
Yep.
So
things that you can tell they kind of intuitively found, but maybe not necessarily know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like I was saying with your repeating shapes and your color patterns and stuff like that. Like that's something that pros actually study.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so I kind of took the opposite where I was going to be mostly greens and with like some purple as like the shading colors kind of thing. And your greens are like the highlights or the kind of the smaller, brighter accents in respect. So I was trying to think around the idea of a night garden versus a day garden kind of thing. And I was going to possibly have like one of our original character type things be in there with the angle of the
that's now I fixed that.
Now you fixed it. Okay. That was bugging me because I was like, what? It's not on the other side too. What's happening here? But oh no, I can't remember what I was saying.
You were thinking about potentially putting
because of the angle that we ended up going with for our halves, it was a much more extreme diagonal, closer to up and down than it was to side, because if it was closer to side with like a top and a bottom rather than a left and a right, I was possibly going to have one of our OCs dangling their legs over the edge.
Aww.
And just kind of like sitting in the sun and basking or something like that.
That's really cute.
But after I saw this shape and this size and everything, I was kind of like, you know what? I think that the big bushy tree to take up everything would be a lot easier for me, and also still talk to. I was also going to try to do like a sprout rather than a whole ass full grown tree, because the idea of a noob starting out growth and stuff,
right?
A small sapling versus legendary sapling versus this big honkin' already grown thing. But I think that the contrast will be interesting. You chopped down the noob tree to build your pro house.
But like these green windows are saying there's something inside, so
there is still life inside
yeah.
this house. But
I had a lot of fun doing this portion here. Doing lights is very hard. You can see like the thing that I did with the glow earlier.
Shifted,
I moved these over and then the glow didn't add up.
Sure.
So I wound up getting rid of that glow and redoing it, which is what I'm doing here. So I added this this lamp because I was like, I need something to break up this
green.
Not this green, but like this ceiling that's at the top. So I wound up doing this lamp to be like, this is, you know, putting light out.
Yeah. So do you shift this over? Because it looks like the lamp isn't centered to where everything is.
I do shift it a little bit. The reason why the lamp doesn't look center is because that fixed it right there. Did you notice that? I made that a post that you could see the other side. So then I also eventually cut this and expand it a little bit so that it looks like it's going on the back wall.
Gotcha.
Yeah. These bottom windows, for some reason, gave me an issue.
Gave you anxiety.
Yeah. And, like, there are definitely mistakes in this. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sit here and point them out, but, like, there are definitely things that I noticed watching through again and looking at it afterwards that I could have done better.
Right.
But...
well, that's, I think, important as an artist or any kind of creative field or any kind of field in general is to take yourself to task, look at the things that you're making and recognize where those opportunities for growth are, where those mistakes are being made and that kind of stuff. Like jobs don't have like performance reviews for no reason. Like they force you to look at what you're doing and all that crap.
That being said, though, don't use it as an excuse to be self-deprecating. You know, like it's just so easy as an artist to just say, "Oh my god, my work is absolute dookie," and like don't do that to yourself because like I know people who can run circles around me who are absolutely phenomenal artists who still feel like they can't do things at a pro level because they are, you know,
so overly self-critical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like where self-criticism is a really strong, important thing to be able to do, you don't want it to turn into, well, why should I bother? Or, you know, I'm not ready to do things because other people can do it better than me or whatever the self-deprecating thought is.
The circle window thing still confuses me. Like, was it meant to be like a stained glass?
Yeah.
Window, but you just can't see the patterns because...
Yep.
Okay.
And when I get the glow in there, it reads better as a window. You'll see it in a couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
But like a lot of what is confusing about this deck area in general is just how it's laid out without the like little shading details.
Yeah.
So
I could understand that.
It also looks like it's leaning. And that's because like the reference I was looking at, the
when the reference leans, it too shall.
no. The reference that I was looking at, the door was like a angled door. It wasn't straight on. So and I liked that. Yeah. So I tried to emulate that, but because it's a night scene with very limited colors, there's not much that I could do to actually show that effectively. So it stays pretty graphic. But this whole thing is pretty graphic. So
yeah. And you know, being a newer artist or one that really has never learned any form of color theory or any kind of stuff like that, like that's a big thing that I constantly come back to is color theory. I don't know what looks good together. I know the term and what some colors are opposite of, and I know that the term analogous colors exists, but if I can remember what that means, I think they're the ones that are like
next to each other.
Yep. Directly next to each other.
Yep.
But put that on a test and I'll be like, oh no, they're cool. But like saying that, I mean, with this project, this first one here, well, I guess this is technically our second one, maybe. But
no, this is our first one. You did the avatar and the logo at the same time.
yeah, that's true. But being as this is one of our early ones and having a color palette to work with, I was super appreciative of that because I would have picked awful colors, and I'll be talking about that on the next one that we do because I look at some of my stuff and I just kind of go, God, how do you get good colors? And like, how do you decide which colors are like the ones that you want? Like, there's so many different shades and hues of like a green or a brown or an orange. And it's like, how do I always manage to pick the shit ones?
It's not that you're picking shit colors. What it is you don't know how those colors relate to one another. So the reason why this kind of purple and this mint green work well together is because this mint green is a bluish green and this purple is a bluish purple. So they're both cool colors and they kind of play off of each other. Also, one is very high value and mostly desaturated, and the other is very low value and saturated. So
no, you're getting into saturations here. You're losing me.
I'm sorry.
Look at these stairs. Look at these steps. They're just little guys.
They're just little guys.
Actually kind of big, but
yeah. They're the correct proportion. So now here I am starting to actually build out this deck and add some light coming through and that kind of stuff. I keep bouncing back and forth at this point because I was getting antsy because I didn't like the left-hand side and I didn't like the deck. So when I hit this point in a piece, I start going, okay, I need to keep my interest so that I don't just go, oh my God, I need to just stop this for the day. And I need to do something that lessens my anxiety. So let me work on a section until I can't handle it anymore. And then I'll go to the other section. And here I am adding that glow. So the glow is pretty much a white. It's a bluish white. And then I lowered its opacity. So then that green really shines against that. And now that looks like a window.
Yeah, that looks a lot better now just with those like 3 lines.
Yep. Because I added dimension to it.
Right?
Yeah, I know. It does kind of get like that, huh?
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to find what layer I put a color on because I put it on the wrong layer.
No! What layer is it?
Oh my God. I don't do that often anymore because if you look, I actually take the time to like name my layers and stuff now.
Oh, I was trying to do that and I tried to do it at one point, but like I had to like triple click the thing.
It's hard on the
and
iPad.
I was just kind of like, you know what? This isn't worth it.
Yeah.
I just know that my line layer is always my top layer.
Yeah.
And
it definitely is worth it, but like on the iPad it is a lot harder.
Yeah. Cause yeah, like compared to your setup, my setup is like the lowest of tech while also being the most annoying of tech.
I mean, the iPads are actually not low tech. The iPad is something that some people will use exclusively for their pro work. It's just that I personally find it hard to use the iPad because I'm used to my desktop setup. So I don't like having to try and find an angle on my lap for the iPad to sit on. And there are things that people have made that like make that better. Like there's like sketch pads and stuff like that.
Sure.
But like they're expensive and I already have a perfectly functional desktop. So like I could work on my iPad when we're traveling or whatever, but it's not super necessary. And like I do like using it when I don't want to be at my desk anymore. But
sure.
I'll find a way to like make it more comfortable for me to use.
There's the green.
Yep.
I did that.
I'll find a way to make it more comfortable for me to use eventually, and then I can get more use out of it. But...
Right. Are we finally getting to the grass in the foreground?
Told you it was half an hour, and like 5 minutes of that is not the house.
Right? Yeah, I mean, the house has a lot of details and a lot of shading because of the extra lighting caused by the windows and stuff. So.
Right.
The pathway. Become a pro and you too can walk towards a spooky house to probably be haunted.
I did the spooky house because I like drawing, supernatural and dark fantasy things. Mm-hmm. So like I thought it spoke a little bit to me. Mm-hmm. And also I didn't have to draw characters. So.
Yeah. Yep. But next you get to draw a character because you get to draw your personified self ?
Right.
Or your avatar.
Yeah,
self.
My avatar.
So something to look forward to there. You get to see how we represent ourselves.
Spoiler alert, it's going to be a vampire of some sort.
No! Shocker, truly.
I know, right? So you can see here with these pebbles, I'm literally not putting like any thought into the shapes that I'm laying down. I'm just kind of scribbling.
Yeah, that's how rock work.
Yeah. So that's the end.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and you put the pro right there on the little hillside in regards to that. Now I look at mine and it's like, is it easy to tilt your head and see what that says?
Well, I mean, you drew yours to the side of the circle, and that's totally okay. You can see what it says.
Yeah.
It is slanted in such a way that you don't have to tilt too much.
Yeah. I just kind of keep looking at the tree trunk and be like, it's too light of a purple for that green. It feels like it's...
Probably. It has to do with your values. So yeah, that purple is lighter in value than this green.
Yep. Now that am looking at it more, especially in comparison to yours, I'm like looking at it and seeing like, yeah, it doesn't make sense in terms of stuff, but that was the purple that you gave me, and I just kind of modified my green rather than modified the purple.
Yeah.
So, interesting stuff. Look at yours. You're just so cool.
Thank you.
Hit the moon.
Yeah, the moon was fun to do.
But yeah, like I said, I'm super proud of this one in particular, just because the brush did all of the work for me. I didn't have to really work hard. Newb versus pro, who won?
You're silly.
No, I like this. This is fun, so I look forward to the next video and making more of these. Because, yeah, I'd like us to be able to do this on a monthly or weekly basis, so look forward to that, hopefully.
We'll probably be back sooner than a month. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Until next time, changelings.
We'll see you next time, everyone. Drink your water. Take care of yourselves. Do what you can. Love you all. Bye.
Bye!